Over the years, I've had a lot of interesting experiences in being able to fall asleep, or the lack thereof, and I have tried a ton of different strategies for the duration of my life. Some are successful and some are a little more comical, but I still try them all. So when I'm having trouble sleeping, back when I was in high school, I used to listen to classical music or like forest sounds. Those were some of my favorites. I would rock some Enya. She was always a favorite of mine to try and help fall asleep. And I found that listening to music where there were no words was often really helpful for me, because otherwise I would get caught up in the lyrics. So I started with that, and then as I got a little older, I would switch to sleeping with the television on, but I could only put something on that I was not really interested in. So I've watched Friends for, like a million years, and I've seen episodes over and over and over again. And so I will oftentimes watch Friends to go to bed because I already know the storyline, and so it's not going to keep me awake. Let's see, another, I think a common one that some people do is take melatonin. I've definitely done that too. So use a little herbal remedy to help with that. I've also, on rare occasions, I'll take like a Tylenol PM, but I prefer not to do that because it makes me feel groggy in the morning. So that is only under like dire circumstances. Sometimes I will do some yoga or stretching. Like if I've been trying to fall asleep and it's not working, sometimes I'll just get out of bed and I'll stretch for a little bit. Let's see, using my phone and trying to read or go on Facebook or things like that is usually not very helpful. And having that bright light kind of like keeps you awake and jars you, I find. So I don't think that that's as helpful of a strategy for me. And then kind of a strange one is sometimes I just like switch my position in the bed. So like I'll put my head where my feet usually go and put my feet where my head goes. And sometimes just changing my position will trick me into being able to fall asleep. It's a little hard when you sleep with someone else in the bed to do that. But that has ironically really helped me. I have no idea where I learned that from, but that was something that I do on occasion. And then of course, sometimes I literally just get up and go and sleep somewhere else. Like we have this huge beanbag chair, and so sometimes I'll sleep in that, or I'll sleep on the couch. So those are some of the different strategies that I use. Some are more effective than others. I think that some started off because that's what my parents did. Like my mom always used to fall asleep listening to like Enya or music. And so I learned that one from her. And then the other ones I've just picked up along the way. I've had coworkers who really, ascribe to nighttime yoga rituals. And so I've tried that because of them. I'm usually pretty open and willing to trying different types of approaches. I'm pretty much the type of person who will try almost anything once. So I hope that some of these are helpful for you as you work on your back to sleep strategies.
When I try to fall asleep, or I should say, when I can't fall asleep, I often don't know what to do. I take out my phone, I'll read through my news stories and promptly get depressed. But one thing that always puts me to sleep is whenever one of my animals finally decides to curl up next to me and I can focus on their breathing and match theirs. And generally, that will put me to sleep in no time.
That yawn was not staged for this voice memo. How do I put myself to sleep when I can't get to sleep? I don't often have a hard time falling asleep. The opposite is more accurate. I have a hard time staying awake. But on those rare occasions when I can't get to sleep, that's how I know something is really wrong. And in those moments, the technique or tactic that I use is just to give up, to not try to put myself to sleep, to stop resisting the urge to sleep. I just get up and putter around the house, or read, or make a cup of tea, or do something, anything other than try to sleep. And I don't know that I learned that from someone or from somewhere. If I had to guess, I would say that I learned it from my partner, who is like a savant of all things sleep, because he has a really hard time sleeping. He's like a confirmed insomniac. But he also doesn't need that much sleep. So I don't know how accurate his advice is. But that's my advice. Don't fight it. Just make good use of the time. Good night. And good luck.
Often when I can't sleep, I try to take a journey through my own mind and try to feel okay with whatever comes up and just let my mind run and run and run until it can't run anymore. And I drift into absurd thoughts. And I know that once I've drifted into absurd thoughts, thoughts that make no sense, that my mind is starting to calm down. And I didn't learn this necessarily from anyone except myself and my own experiences as I've been trying to sleep. And knowing that when thoughts turn towards things that aren't necessarily based in reality, that I'm getting closer and closer to a dream world and farther away from the waking reality.
Hey Seth, this is Kay calling in from Queens, New York. Calling in to tell you about my sleep strategy, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but that's kind of the point of it. So usually when I can't fall asleep, it's because I've woken up in the middle of the night, almost always at like 4 a.m. And what I do is I just close my eyes and kind of tell myself that it's okay if I can't fall asleep. And that I'm just going to lay there and try to rest whether I sleep or not. And I think I heard this tip, like, I think it was on Tumblr, but it might have been like on TV or a podcast or something. But it said that there was a study done. I think the study was about tired driving, maybe, but it found that like just laying down and closing your eyes and resting is more effective at helping you kind of get through a task than getting up and doing something. So it's maybe not as like good for you as actually sleeping, but just laying there and closing your eyes actually does something for you in terms of rest. So my tip is just lay there and try to rest and kind of negotiate with your brain and try to come to some kind of compromise that allows you to at least rest, if not sleep. And usually when I do this, eventually I'll fall asleep, even if it takes an hour or more. But the important thing is to take the pressure off from actually having to fall asleep, because otherwise I just worry. In addition to whatever I'm worrying about, I worry about sleeping as well. So that's that. I hope that you have a good night's sleep, whoever's listening to this. Bye.
I wake up around 3 to 4 a.m. Not every night, but a couple of times a week. And it's usually because of something that's on my mind that's either troubling or challenging me to be creative. And I know if I don't get up and tackle it, I'm not going to get back to sleep. So I do. Generally, I get on my computer and I work for a couple of hours. And often, which seems contradictory, I will brew a cup of coffee to power me through the couple hours I know I will be awake anyway. And when I've accomplished the task or gotten close to accomplishing the task, I'm able to go back to sleep. That's my sleep story.
When I'm having trouble sleeping, I usually do a couple of different things, either being focused on my breathing or having some kind of noise in the background. As long as I don't have to pay attention to it, usually music or even a video that I've watched 100 times. I don't know where I really learned it from, but if I had to say one person, I'd say it'd be from my parents.
Do I give my name? Is it going now? Oh, hi. My name is Deborah, and I'm 67 years old, and my favorite technique for going to sleep is to lie on my back and put my hands on my abdomen and to inhale to the count of 5 and hold my breath to the count of 6 and release my breath to the count of 5. And I do it slower and slower with each breath cycle, deepening my inhales and exhalations. And if my mind wanders off, I gently bring it back to my counting. And I think the reason it works so well is because my brain is doing 2 things at once. It's counting, and I'm holding my breath and exhaling my breath. And so it's hard to think of other things when you're doing 2 things at once. And this is my favorite, absolutely all-time favorite technique for going to sleep. Thank you for offering this very cool app.
So I've always had a lot of trouble sleeping, and I think I go through waves where I'm, figuring out something that works for me, or I'll do something for a while and then I change, and where I am changes and that thing doesn't work anymore. But what's working for me right now, more than anything, is sort of having this idea of a bedtime story. So I have a book that I read at night. I always have a nighttime novel that I'm sort of reading, and then I have my daytime novels, which usually deal with more, with heavier things. And so at night, when I'm reading, I just got done reading a memoir, although memoirs can also be sometimes very intense, but I just got done reading a memoir by one of my favorite writers, or I've been really into this series, Penrick's Demon. It's a science fiction series about a young man who has a female demon sort of trapped in him that makes him a sorcerer and gives him power. And so and the science fiction works for me because it's sort of fantasy based, it's sort of dreamlike. So at night, I'm reading these things that are sort of allowing my brain to relax and allowing me to kind of enter into the more fantasy world. And I'm thinking of it sort of like a bedtime story. So it's something that I read and that I can sort of do to relax my mind. And that's been useful because oftentimes when I can't sleep, it's because I'm anxious or because I feel very alone, because I feel like I'm the only one that's awake out of everybody I know, and that I'm kind of, I'm stressing about that. So reading has helped me sort of enter into a different world where, I'm immersed with the characters and feeling that. And we read bedtime stories when we're younger, so then right now my method is this idea of a bedtime story for myself. It's this treat at the end of the day. So that's one thing I've been doing. Another thing that's been helping me is this sort of nostril breathing. So I cover one of my nostrils and I breathe in, then I hold it for 2 seconds, and then I switch which nostril I'm covering and breathe out. And then you keep doing that back and forth. So you breathe in the same nostril that you uncovered, and then you switch. And that's been helping me sort of stay calm. And then, the other thing that I've been doing that's been really helping lately is this idea of loops. It's actually an idea that came from my dad. So we all have these loops that sort of stay open. Things that we need to do, or people we need to call, or, I need to make that appointment from the doctor, those kind of things. And so in my journal, I'll sort of write something down, I need to do my homework for this course I'm taking, or I need to clean this, I need to deflate the air mattress where my friends were staying. And so I'll write it down, and then I'll draw a half circle around it, or kind of not even a circle, a loopy type thing, and I actually make it more graphically fun by drawing squigglies and stuff. And then just by writing down those loops, when I'm finished with them, I like to close the circle. So it's kind of like a to-do list, but you just circle around whatever you're having to do. But what I like about the loop thing and what's been helping me about doing this is that, even just having the loops written down means that when I'm laying in bed at night and my anxiety, because my anxiety is always highest at night also, I don't have to be thinking, I need to remember to do this. I forgot to do this. I already know it. It's already concrete. It's in my journal. So those thoughts aren't as present, right? I know that it's written there. I know I have a plan to close them. But I don't have to be lying awake thinking about how I've forgotten those. So those are my 3 things that are working for me right now. And I hope they help everybody. Hope that y'all can get some sleep. It's really hard, but I feel like staying awake sometimes means that you're more present with what you're feeling and thinking, and that can sometimes also be a gift. So that's another thing that helps me kind of relax when I'm awake at night thinking about something, is okay, I'm just being present with this, and that's all right too sometimes. Much love and much sleep to everybody.
This next sleep technique comes from Zach in Augusta, Georgia. He says, read a random Wikipedia page, such as the Glen Cove Hospital, part of the Northwell Health System. It was founded in 1921 and moved to its current location in 1927. From 1927 to 1955, it was known as North Country Community Hospital, and at other times it had various names referencing Glen Cove. In 1955, the name was changed to Community Hospital at Glen Cove. The hospital had sued the new North Shore Hospital, contending that they were too similar, leading to errors in the delivery of medicines and other supplies, mail, and the writing of checks. Upon losing, it decided to change its own name to prevent confusion. In 2003, the maternity ward unit was closed. However, its emergency room was upgraded, and in 2006, it was announced that the critical care unit would be renovated. In 2006, the campus was given the additional name, the Mildred and Frank Feinberg Campus. In 2014, the hospital staff was reduced by half. This led to concerns that the hospital would close or be converted to an ambulatory care center, but this did not happen. In 2019, a major renovation and expansion began of the hospital's outpatient family medicine center. The Northwell Health System is a nonprofit integrated healthcare network that is New York State's largest healthcare provider and private employer, with more than 74,000 employees. Hospitals include the Cohen Children's Medical Center, Glen Cove Hospital, Huntington Hospital, Lenox Health Greenwich Village, Lenox Hill Hospital, Long Island Jewish Medical Center, Long Island Jewish Forest Hills, Phelps Hospital, Zucker Hillside Hospital, Northern Westchester Hospital, Staten Island University Hospital, Mather Hospital, and Maimonides Medical Center.
Contrary to popular belief, I am not an insomniac. I just don't need very much sleep. I used to worry about it. I used to fret about the fact that I wasn't sleeping. And then at some point, several years ago when they became popular, I bought a fitness tracker and it had a sleep tracking function on it. And I thought this was interesting, and so I started to watch it because, sleep was an issue. And I realized that no matter what, I needed about maybe 6 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep every night. So if I went to bed at midnight, I'd wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning. If I went to bed at 10 o'clock, I'd wake up at 4 in the morning. And this is great when I came to this, because I stopped worrying. I didn't wake up at 2 in the morning and think that I was just gonna have my whole day ruined anymore. I got up at 2 in the morning and I would either do something or not do anything and just kind of enjoy the quiet time to lay there. Now let me get one thing straight. Going to sleep is not a problem for me. It's just that I wake up. And one of the things that I came to realize in this whole experience is that we have a artificial idea. I think it's an artificial idea that everyone needs 8 hours of sleep. 8 to 10 hours of sleep is the human thing. I think it's a much more flexible curve. I think that if you are sleeping and waking up in a natural way, and you're able to operate through your day, which I was and I am, on a certain number of hours of sleep, then you're doing it right. If there's a real problem, then there's something to be dealt with. But to say that because I didn't get this number, I've got a problem, I think exacerbates the problem and makes everything worse. And you end up in this sort of weird psychological hell of your own making, and you've got nobody to talk to because it's 2 in the morning. And you're just there with yourself. So let it go. Just be.
Sometimes I can't sleep,
And it's not easy. One of the techniques that I try is I'll make sure I'm lying down on my back. The room as dark as possible. White noise in the background, perhaps a fan that's not oscillating, ceiling fan. And I'll lay there with my eyes closed, and I'll try to imagine the color gray. Just a boring gray, a field of color of just gray. And I'll just stare at it, just think of the color gray, hoping that no other sounds will come in and no other thoughts will come into my brain. And then I'll lay there, I'll focus on breathing, sometimes even counting my breathing. Counting, starting at 1 and going up. Other times I'll try to have my eyes closed, and I feel like there's this one more step to close my eyes even so everything is darker, so it's like a second closing of my eyes. It's not like I'm forcing my eyelids closed, but it almost is like that. It feels like I'm making it even darker. And focus on my breathing and try to only imagine the color gray. No textures, no sounds, just a white noise, dark eyelids, complete darkness, my eyelids closed, and breathing.
I go through phases when it comes to sleeping. When I was in college, it was very, very hard. And one of the things I implemented then is the bed is a place just for sleep. If I crawl into my bed, that means it's time to close my eyes and fall asleep. And that seemed to work for a very long time. But now I recently moved halfway across the country, and I'm finding myself having issues with sleep again. So I'm doing the melatonin thing, and I've tried other chemicals to help with it, which helps some. But one of the big things that I'm learning is to appreciate just the quiet, even if I can't sleep, to close my eyes and try and let my mind rest so that I can at least work on recharging my batteries that way, and that seems to help. Not as much as a good night's sleep, but much better than getting out of bed and thinking I'll just try and make the day productive.
So when I can't sleep, one thing that I do to put myself to bed is breathe deeply in and out through my nose, and I do this visualization where the air is swirling around in my empty skull and flowing back out empty, and that my brain is just completely empty, and that often will help me to fall asleep. And if you want to attribute it, this is Amy in Mott Haven.
I never thought I'd be one of these people, but I have become a big fan of earplugs and wearing a mask over my eyes when I go to sleep. I think it takes away the temptation to look or listen, which are things that very easily distract me. If I'm having trouble sleeping, I will do a scan of my body, starting with my toes and working through all of the bones and muscles, all the way up to the top of my head, and just telling each place to rest and allowing those individual areas to sink into the bed and prepare for sleep. And if I really can't sleep, if all else fails, I had a therapist once that said, you may not be able to choose to sleep, but you can choose what you think about. So I might get up and just not sleep. Maybe journal or try to do something calm like yoga, or even do some chores like dishes or laundry or something that I know that I'll be really glad that I did in the middle of the night when I do wake up in the morning, and usually that will tire me out and I can sleep.
This is Max Peterson. I am responding to the question of how do you put yourself to bed when you're having trouble sleeping? Where did you learn this? From whom? To be frank, I think that I don't really have a lot of trouble sleeping. And my mom, experiences a lot of insomnia, and that's a major issue for her, and I have some friends where that's the case. But I think for me, I don't think I've ever it's definitely not an issue I deal with often. I tend to just, like, the minute my head touches the pillow, I pass out, and then the next day starts, which probably just means I'm, like, severely overtired most of the time. But I don't think I mean, of course, there are the occasional night when I have trouble sleeping, which I really think only happens when, like, I'm too hot while trying to sleep. And if on those occasions, I think maybe it's not even really a strategy. I think I just tend to, like, force my way through it, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, to force your way through lack of sleep, but I, like, just kind of close my eyes and just kind of force myself to keep my eyes closed and wait it out. I think that's actually something that I learned from my partner in college, when we first were beginning to see each other, because she was someone who enjoyed sleeping and slept a lot, and I was not. And so she would get frustrated with me for being awake, and she would just tell me to close my eyes and keep them closed. until I fell asleep with no exceptions, and that worked. So I think maybe that's the closest thing I have to a strategy, is just to like, make sure I don't open my eyes at all until I fall asleep. Yeah. So I guess that's one small strategy I have, and who I learned it from.
This has been Down Will Come Baby.